This is Tom O'Neill of The Envelope with Dave Karger of Entertainment Weekly, who has just come up with, I think, one of the neatest theories on how to predict the movies that might be nominated for Best Picture. And it's a matter of combining some lists, right, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, everyone looks at the Golden Globes and thinks that those are the most predictive pre-Oscar awards, and I don't think they really are. Now watch, my theory is going to get blown to hell this year. But I think if you look at the Broadcast Critic Top 10, the AFI Top 10, and the National Board of Review Top 10 as an aggregate, you really can very clearly, in the last few years at least, get an idea of what the Best Picture nominees are going to be. I mean, there was 3 years ago.
All five.
All five of
I know,
the
Crash,
Best Picture
Brokeback,
nominees.
Good Night and Good Luck, Capote, and Munich.
They were the only 5 movies that were named to all 3 of those lists that I mentioned. And even last year, I mean, No Country for Old Men, Michael Clayton, and Juno, they landed on all 3. And then There Will Be Blood and Atonement made it on to 2. So what I was looking at this year was the movies that made it on 2 or more lists, and there were a lot. There were about 9. So there's actually a lot of overlap. And those were movies like Wall-E, The Wrestler, Benjamin Button, Milk, Frost Nixon, and then Slumdog Millionaire, which made it onto 2. It would have made it onto 3, but it wasn't eligible for the AFI because it's not an American film. But anyway, the thing I found interesting about it is that Doubt only made it onto 1 of those lists, Broadcast Critics, and Revolutionary Road, which I'm also crazy about, made it onto none. It got a Golden Globe nomination, but none of those other 3. So I'm beginning to think that those movies are, they might be in a little bit of trouble. So they need a lot of guild support in the coming weeks.
Now, the 6 that did show up on all 3 lists this year that you have are Benjamin Button, Milk, Frost Nixon, Dark Knight, Wall-E, and The Wrestler. Now, Wall-E and The Wrestler are long shots, right?
I think so. Particularly The Wrestler, I think it's a shoo-in for Mickey Rourke. And Marissa Tomei seems a more and more likely possibility.
Yeah, she's winning a lot of these Critics Awards now. Now, I think that we have 4 safe bets for Best Picture. I think we've got Slumdog, Milk, Frost Nixon, and Ben Button, and it's the question of what's that 5th.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that it's Dark Knight. But let's take a look at your rundown for Best Picture, because you're going with Ben Button for Best Picture and Slumdog in second position. Why?
I really feel like at this point, Best Picture is probably a race between the 2 of those. I think that they're going to get lots of nominations. I think Button could get 10, 11 nominations. Slumdog will probably, even if it gets no acting nominations, could really clean up in a lot of the tech categories as well. Frost Nixon seems to me like a movie that gets in for Best Picture but might have a hard time actually winning an Oscar. I think it gets maybe 6, 7 nominations, but might not actually end up winning anything. And then Milk, of course, is coming on very strong. The Golden Globe mini snub, if you will, hurt a little bit, but I still think that that's going to be a strong movie with the Academy. And then Dark Knight, I do feel like, is going to be a populist choice, and it's a great film.
It's a great film, but here's where I take issue with your ranking. Not only do I think that Slumdog will win because it has more passion behind it. Let me get back to that in a second. But in terms of ranking, and that is, I think, would you agree that Milk has a stronger chance to win than Frost Nixon?
I would.
Yeah, so
I
I
would.
think you might. And Dark Knight could actually win.
I think so too. I think once the 5 nominees come out, I think things will begin to shift a little bit. It's just a question. I do think Frost Nixon, though, is a pretty sure bet for a nomination.
Absolutely. And I think that you could be right on Ben Button winning, because we know that in the past 20 years, the movie with the most nominations has won 15 times. This is going to have the most nominations, but yet we've seen a lot of exceptions in recent years, particularly.
Crash.
Yeah, with Crash, of course. But I think the problem with Ben Button is that it's a great movie in every respect, but nothing really happens. It's a movie about longing. Now, that's okay, but I think that you are, as a viewer, emotionally invested in Slumdog, and it deals with the top 2 quests of man, with being rich and finding love.
Yeah, although I also hear of so many people who were so moved by Benjamin Button and are sobbing for 2 of the 2 3/4 hour running time of this film.
Right.
So I think that that's going to have an emotional pull as well for a lot of people.
And also, at the Oscars, of course, Best Picture is usually big picture. And even when these big movies are under attack, like A Beautiful Mind was being ferociously attacked for sugarcoating its life story. And remember English Patient? There was a Seinfeld episode saying, we're sick of English Patient. There was such a backlash, but it still won. It was unkillable. Yeah. And so if that phenomenon still applies to this year, maybe Ben Button is unkillable.
I do think it's going to be close. I don't think Benjamin Button is a lock to win by any means. I do think it's going to be a race, and that's what's exciting about it.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Dave.